The way it works in the NBA, you should want your starters to be considerably better than your bench. Why? Because that means you have stars. You only win in this league with stars. That's the way the NBA works. That's why Cleveland and Golden State are virtually a lock to get to the finals, and the only other team considered is, Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs. Stars win in this league. It's not about depth. It's not about bench. You want your starters to score about 75% of your points to 70% of your points to high 60s. So last night, I just happened to watch the Spurs-Lakers game, about 75% of it. And it really strikes me. And so I went and looked up the numbers this morning. The starters for the Spurs scored 82 points, and their bench scored 52. The Lakers starters scored 42, and their reserves scored more, 52. Translation is, the Lakers bench is as good or better sometimes as their starters. Translation, Lakers don't have any stars. It's a bunch of guys. Golden State, Detroit played last night. Golden State starters, 81, bench 46. Detroit starters, 65, bench 42. Knicks starters, 62, bench 42. Bulls starters, 54, bench 35. Phoenix starters last night, 85, bench 23. Dallas starters, 93, bench 20. You want your starters to be better than your bench, or it means you have no stars. Percentage of points scored by bench players. Look at it in the NBA right now. What does that tell you? Lakers are number 1, Knicks are 2. What does it tell you? Lousy teams. Everybody always talks about, I want a good bench. You want a bench that is capable of holding on to what your starters have. But your starters should be able to build leads, double-digit leads, because they're better players. I saw a story yesterday. It's a bunch of hooey. This was written, I'm not even going to say who it's written by because I don't want to dog anybody, but it said, NBA trade rumors, Lakers have no plans to trade their young core and has scouts raving. I called 2 scouts. I got a breakdown. Both said the same thing. Lakers would move D'Angelo Russell for the right pieces. They love Brandon Ingram, and they think he's 3 years out. And they like Nance off the bench, and they like Randall. They're split on D'Angelo Russell, who is a scorer, but they don't know if in Los Angeles, body type, it works long term. So I watched that game last night, and my takeaway is your bench is often better than your starters, which means, like the old saying, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. If your bench is better than your starters, it's time to get new starters. That's not a value like everybody talks about. Our bench is great. Yeah, in L.A., your bench is better than your starters. That's bad news. It's not that way in Cleveland. It's not that way in Golden State. It's not that way in Boston. It's not that way with good playoff teams. It doesn't work that way. The Clippers starters are better than their bench. So there you go. Just threw that out there.
It's interesting. I want to see how often, though, that happens, or if it's
Well, I mean, it shows you right now.
Well, that was just from last night.
No, the percentage of points scored by the bench players, the Lakers bench outscores their starters.
Isn't that just from last night, though?
Was that last night?
Yeah. So I think you might be onto something. I just want to see how often that happens during the season.
I don't want my bench. I don't want to live in a world in the NBA where I can't tell my bench from my starters.
I agree.
I don't. By the way, who is winning March Madness? Who's there every year? Duke, Kentucky. Why? Syracuse, UConn, because they have NBA players. They don't sit on the bench. They start. Mm-hmm. And everybody always talks about, the depth is so. Once you get into the playoffs, man, you're down to about 8 guys. And I mean, you're really down to about 7 guys who play valuable minutes. You are tightening up that roster. You go back to all the great Laker teams. You're not talking about their bench. It's okay if you have a guy come off the bench and pop a 3. You're not winning that thing without Shaq and Kobe.